Hey, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you're having a great day. So for this video I'm going to show you how I take a basic drawing and turn it into a piece of digital artwork. I'll be using Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, but there are other programs you can use to go through these steps. So if you want to follow along using other software, you can do. If you want to follow the exact steps of what I'm doing, I'd recommend getting hold of those programs. So yeah, that being said, I'll get into the video. Okay, so the first step is to open up the image in Adobe Photoshop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to adjust this image slightly, because if I click on with this colour picker, you'll see areas of paper are actually a very light grey. So instead of being a pure crisp white, they're actually a light grey. This is a step I'd use to post this image online as well, just to clean it up generally. So if I put some white onto that image there, you can sort of see what I'm working with versus true, like strong white. So you can see the texture of the paper through it. You can also see bits of shading, and some bits where I've put on black with the pen, you can see pen marks, or darker or lighter areas where I've just coloured in more on some areas in other areas. You don't really see all this on the actual drawing, it's just when you scan it in you get more detail than actually on paper sometimes, as silly as that sounds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the levels box, which is image adjustments levels, and play around with these sliders. So there's a black one, there's a white one, and there's a graph, which generally, if you look at the graph and see the points, they're showing you pretty much where I want to be. So if I drag that one across, you'll see the blacks get blacker. So what's happening is the percentage of black on that image is increasing. So parts which were dark grey before are now a really solid black. When I do the same with the other one, with the white, it will essentially do the same thing. Parts which are light grey will become really crisp white, and then for the next step, when I trace this image using another program, it'll mean the information I'm giving that program is easier to work with. So once I've got that to a level where I'm happy with, where I can't see any pencil lines or smudges or differences in tone in black pen, I'll save the image. Now I'm going to open that file that I've just made in Adobe Illustrator. The difference between Photoshop and Illustrator, or one difference that's important to this, is one works with pixels, the other works with vectors. So Illustrator works with vectors, which instead of being little dots on a screen, are points on a map that it will plot either a line or an area to colour in between. So what that means is when you blow the image up or scale it up or zoom in, instead of getting loads of little dots and a pixelated effect, you'll just increase the distance between those paths. So the image will stay true, and it generally makes it better for print or for scaling the image up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the image and go on to Objects, Live Trace, and then Tracing Options. What Live Trace does, it basically traces the image for you digitally. So it'll make all of those points that I just said on, let's say, the map of the image, and then it'll colour in or make lines around those points. So it's just a really quick way of, instead of me having to go across all of this image digitally and click on different parts and make up this drawing twice, the computer program's going to do it for me. So if I look at the box here, or if you look at the box here, you'll see there's an area called threshold, and there's areas called, I think, path fitting and minimum area. So the threshold is same with what we were doing earlier, it's the amount it's going to trace. So at its lowest it will trace just the really dark areas, at its highest it will trace pretty much everything that you can see. So I'm going to find a happy medium between it not tracing things I don't want and it not leaving out things that I do want. That makes sense. The other things are the path fitting and the minimum area. So basically these sections are choosing the areas it traces with little lines. So instead of it tracing every tiny little detail on here, I'm basically making it pick out the areas I want and leave the areas I don't want. So there's a tiny dot, it would probably pass over that and think this isn't important, but if I wanted that dot, I'd basically decrease the minimum area until it picks that up. But what I don't want is parts of the pencil lines or little bits that I haven't got rid of in that first process to appear in this. So I'm going to set this again at a happy medium where I'm happy with the image, and I'll probably lose a few of the little lines that I wanted, but again, it just makes this process a lot simpler, and there's ways that I can add not those lines back but add more details to areas I think I've lost details in the last steps. So I'll do that, and then I'll save it as an EPS file and open it back up in Photoshop. Now that I've got that image, I'm going to open it back up in Photoshop, scale it to the size that I want the final piece of artwork to be, and then start to mock out some colours. So the first step, I'm going to delete all of the white, so I'm left with just the pure black, and then I'm going to pick a colour for the outline. For this one, I'm going to go with the dark brown because it'll suit the colours I want to do, but for your piece you might want to change your colours to suit what you're working with. Another thing is sometimes you get nice effects just with this. Sometimes it can take a drawing which is one thing and make it into something completely else, especially with stronger colours or gradients work nicely, and it's something you can play around with to create a nice piece of artwork on itself sometimes. But I know what I want to do, I've got a plan for this one, so I'm going to take it back to dark brown and mock out the colours. And there we go, so I've quickly put little dots on the image, almost like a colour by numbers, just to plan out what colours I want to go where. So for the front of the car, I've got a dark reddy orange for the front bumper and a lighter orange for the top of the car, because basically one area is going to be in shade, the other area is going to have light hitting it. So I've put those there. And for the background, I've mocked out 3 shades of beige to brown. So one will be for the dust cloud, the other will be half dust cloud, half trees, and the darkest shade will be actual trees. Then I've put 2 dots of grey on, which will be for trim pieces on the car, for the wheels, and any other areas. So I'm going to keep it to quite a strict colour palette. I'll probably add a few lighter and darker shades, but I won't be adding any new colours to this. I want it to be a piece of artwork and not something I'm creating to look like a realistic photo at the end of the day. So now that I've got my palette, I'm going to make the base colour into beige, and I'm going to use the paths tool to draw out each area of colour. So I'm just going to work with blocks of colour to start off with, just to get in the base areas. So I'll do one for the dust cloud in each layer of that, and then I'll put in a solid block for the chunks of orange or grey on the car and do the same for the floor. So the paths tool is basically what I said earlier. I'm putting dots on, I'm joining them up with either straight lines or curves to make out areas of colour, so solid shapes of colour, and I'll make the image up with those, and then I'll catch up with you. Okay, so now I've blocked in solid areas of colour. I've changed a few as I've gone across it. So I've made the orange a mid-tone, so the middle point between those 2 oranges we had earlier. And the greys I've made a little bit more dirtier because they were contrasting more with the brown outline. So now they suit the colours a bit more, and there's not colours looking wrong. To my eyes, it looks how I want it to look. So now I'm going to use the same tool as before, the paths tool, but instead of going around bits of what I think are body panels and what are trim pieces, I'm actually going to use a bit more creativity and a bit more freedom to pick out highlights and shadows. So this trim piece is a good area to start because it's actually a clean line down the middle of it. So I know which areas is going to be shadow, I know what are going to be highlights. So what I'll do, I'll draw out a path around that highlight and I'll fill it in with colour, and then once I've done that, I'll speed up the video and we'll fly through the rest of it, and I'll catch back up with you. And there we go. So that's pretty much the finished piece. What I'm going to do next is, now that I've got all of this information in the picture, I'm not going to draw anything extra, but I'm just going to tweak some of the colours slightly just to get them how I want. This is what I love about digital work, is rather than painting something and thinking, oh, that colour's a bit light or a bit dark, and either having to start again or accept it, you can tweak every part of this picture because it's all built up on individual layers rather than it being one flat piece of artwork. So for example, I'm going to add a bit more contrast to the picture by changing the brown to a darker brown. I'm not going to go fully to black because I think that will lose something, but I'm just going to make it a little bit darker just to define those edges a bit more. So now that's done, I'm happy with the final piece, but I'm going to show you another great part of Photoshop or of digital artwork. So I've created this one, it's orange, brown and a dirty grey. What I'm now going to do is make the car blue and change the complete colour palette to suit that. So the bits that are beige are going to be light grey, the outline is going to be a really dark turquoise to suit the blue, and the background that was a lighter, almost white type of beige, I'm going to make a super light grey. And there we go, so that's really quickly showed you how you can completely change the image in pretty much a matter of seconds, if not minutes. So you can completely shift those colours from one image to another. If I'd done this with paint, it'd probably be quicker to paint the whole thing over again than try and really finely paint over each colour and keep the actual image. So I love this about digital, that I can create two completely different pieces of artwork which will look different in different rooms super quickly. If I wanted to, I could make another one with the car green or yellow and add different colours to suit that. So what I'll do now, I'll add a few close-ups, a few scrolling pretty images, and I'll end the video. So thank you very much for watching. Please comment if you want to know any more, or if there's any steps of this you're a bit unsure of. Also, please link your piece of art you create using this method in the comments, or if you have a picture of your car that you would like me to create this effect on, please post that in the comments. I can't guarantee I've got the time to do it, but if that's something you'd like, please post it, and if I've got the time and I think that's something I want to create, I definitely will give it a shot. But if not, find these programs and create something yourself. So that being said, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, I'll catch you next time.